The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Jesus and his disciples set out for the villages of Caesarea Philippi. Along the way, he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" They said in reply, "John the Baptist, others Elijah, still others, one of the prophets." And he asked them, "But who do you say I am?" Peter said to him in reply, "You are the Christ." Then he warned them not to tell anyone about him. He began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer greatly and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests and the scribes, and be killed and rise after 3 days. He spoke this openly. Then Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. At this, he turned around, looking at his disciples, rebuked Peter and said, "Get behind me, Satan. You are thinking not as God does, but as humans do." He summoned the crowd with his disciples and said to them, "Whoever wishes to come after me must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake and that of the gospel will save it." This is the gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Good morning again.
Good morning again.
Has anybody here been the victim of identity theft? Yeah, really?
A little bit. Yeah.
A little bit? Have you known somebody that's been the victim? Really?
Yes.
So it happens quite a bit. Really?
He raised his hand.
Right. So you've known somebody that's been a... Oh, you're a victim? Have you been a victim of identity theft?
Yeah.
Wow, wow. It's pretty unnerving, isn't it? And that is, it's a spooky thought to think that our identity can be taken away from us. The world defines our identity in so many ways. I have not been a victim of identity theft, and I haven't known anybody that's been a victim of identity theft. But it's just so odd, during the past week, I had 2 instances where I was questioning my own identity. I went to get a Thai massage, which I get every now and then after a couple of rounds of golf. And the guy at the desk, I walk in and he says, "Hi, boss." And I'm thinking, boss? And I was in Bevmo also, picking up a bottle of wine, and the cashier said, "Did you find everything, boss?" And I'm thinking to myself, do I own these places? And if I do these people work for me? And if they do work for me, can I do a performance review and maybe fire them if I don't like what they're doing? All of a sudden I'm questioning my identity because a couple of people are calling me boss. And I know I guess it's an in word these days. But that whole idea of identity, I think the world puts on top of us in so many ways we don't realize. I think we've all been the victim of identity theft. Okay? If you've ever been on the job, at your office, at work, and refused to get involved in office politics, and you've been kind of put on the outside of the in crowd, you've been the victim of identity theft. If your boss has ever asked you to do something, to fudge a report, or to do something a little shady, and to keep your job, you did it, you were the victim of identity theft. In our relationships, if you've ever walked out of the house screaming at your spouse or screaming at your children, you've been the victim of identity theft. If you are in a relationship where it always has to be your way, and the bedroom has to be organized this way, and the kitchen has to be organized this way, and the clothes have to be folded this way, you have been the victim of identity theft. If you're a young person, or when we all were once young, were you ever shunned or put aside because you were the smartest kid in the class, a teacher's pet, and you were shunned a little bit? You were the victim of identity theft. If you're an honor student on the honor roll, and you didn't wear the right clothes, and you didn't hang with the right people and have the right shoes, and people made fun of you because of that, you were the victim of identity theft. If you were on that honor roll, and I don't mean the Lindsay Lohan honor roll. Okay? Yes, Your Honor, no, Your Honor, yes, okay, not that honor roll. Okay? But if you were really working and doing the best you possibly could, and you were put down for that, you were the victim of identity theft. Why? Because the world defines our identity in terms of ego. And ego is all about who's right, who's wrong. How this should be organized, where this should be, how the dishes should be done, how the toothpaste tube should be squeezed, how you should fit in at work. It's all about winning, competing, being on top, being right, getting it done my way, okay, right? And my expectations need to be met. My needs come first. This is what I expect. It's all about me. And the world puts us there. The whole world calls us boss in a lot of ways. We should be the boss in our own home, the boss at our own job, the boss of our own lives, and we are in total control. And that is how our identity is many times defined in society. All about us. The readings today are very, very different. Very different. Jesus does not take his identity in a way that a lot of the Jewish people, the Hebrew nation, wanted him to have. He didn't take his identity as, well, King Solomon would be a pretty good role model, huh? A good king. A King David, pretty good maybe way to identify himself. Maybe a military leader that was going to take down the Romans and give the Hebrew nation their own land. Nope, wasn't that either. What does Jesus align himself with? The ego power structure of the day? Or, whoops, Isaiah. Jesus defines his identity in 2 words. Suffering servant. He's a servant. The first thing a servant does is put his ego aside so he can put the other person's ego in the forefront. The other person's needs, the other person's desires, the other person's expectations. Okay? To allow the other person to take the priority in life. Whoa, what a different idea and concept of real identity. So much so that Peter says, don't tell anybody about this. We're not going to be able to sell this to the Jewish people. They're looking for a Messiah that's going to change the society of the Hebrew nation. Keep it under your hat, Jesus. This is a problem. And what's Jesus' answer to that? Get behind me. You don't understand. You're not getting it, Peter. It's not about ego assertion. It's not about control and power. It's about ego surrender. I'm going to die. I'm going to give it all up. I'm going to surrender. Those are not egoic words. Those are not words about me, myself, I, and my ego. Those truly are words of a servant, and ouch, it's going to hurt a little bit. And Peter is saying, we can't sell this. We're not going to be able to sell this to the Jewish people. Well, he couldn't sell it to the Jewish people, and you know, today, how do you sell that message to a first world country? How do you sell the benefit of being a suffering servant in the United States of America when we spend most of our lives working hard, saving, so that we don't have to suffer? How do you sell that to a first world country? How do you sell this idea to an addict who says, I want to hang on to this. This is feeling good. I don't want to let go. I don't want to surrender. How do you sell that to an addict? How do you sell that to an enabler? Which says, I want to give you another chance. I want to hang on to this image I have of husband, wife, brother, sister, whatever it is, mother, father. I want to hang on to this and cling to it because this is how I identify myself. How do you sell ego surrender to that person? How do you sell this message to people living in domestic violence that don't want to let go of what they have found to be safe, comfortable, and familiar, as terrible as it may be? How do you sell the message of ego, surrender, and, ouch, it's going to hurt a little bit? Because I'm going to have to let go of a part of me that I've been clinging to for so long. I think our identity continues to grow as we live and follow this journey. I don't know how we sell it to a first world country. I don't know how we sell it to people on the job. I don't know how we sell it in relationships. I don't know how we sell it sometimes to ourselves. I don't know. I don't have that answer because it's a tough identity question. But I do know this. In a few moments, I'm going to be saying the central words of our Eucharistic prayer. And those words are, "This is my body, which I'm going to give up." Not hold on to, not cling to, not suffocate, not embrace totally. I'm going to, this is my body which will be given up for you. This is my blood, which I'm not going to hang on to and cling to, but I'm going to pour it forth. I'm going to let go of it for you. Why? And those central words, for the forgiveness of sin, which really is a short way of saying, so we can let go of that disconnection. Sin is just a simple word that means I'm going to let go of my body, I'm going to let go of my blood, so that sin, or any type of disconnection we have, disconnection with ourselves, disconnection with family members, disconnection with other people in society, can be forgiven, can be reconnected, reconciled, brought back together so that we can be whole, and our identity as men, women, husbands, wives, that identity can truly emerge and be one of servant. Ouch, it may hurt at times, but to be true lovers, true givers, true servants, and allow our own identity as people that are integrated, human, divine, religious Christians, to let that emerge in this life and celebrate it eventually forever in the life to come.